Be very, very quiet. We're looking for fish. Where are you going to find fish? Out in the forest, of course. At least that's where I find a lot of them. If you don't believe me, I'll show you. Why are we looking for fish? 3 reasons. Because we can, why not, and just because. I think all 3 of those are legitimate reasons. If you've been watching this channel, you probably know I grow trees here, but I also grow fish. Well, I don't grow them, they grow themselves, but so do the trees. I just manage them. Today we're going to take a look at the fish and see what could be done to grow more fish. Of course, you're probably not going to see very many fish just flopping around out in the woods. They prefer to be in the water, which there is some right here. There's a culvert that goes under the road right here with some water going through it. If we look on the lower end, if we're very careful and quietly, slowly sneak over here, I bet we'll see at least 1 fish. Let's go down below this hole. I'll show you how little amount of water is flowing through here and how small of amount of water you need to support these rainbow trout. It's not a lot of water, but it is water. That little fish, that little fish was in a hole not much bigger than it is. Over here, there's a bigger hole. That has bigger fish in it. Got a Pacific dogwood here. Yeah, I know we're looking for fish, but I'm getting distracted by the trees. Right next to it is this red twig dogwood, which is the other dogwood native to the Pacific Northwest. I bet you can't guess how they got their name. Around here, dogwood tend to live in wet areas, so do fish. So we're not entirely off topic. It's kind of related. Do you know how you can tell if a tree is a dogwood? I'll show you. If you tear the leaves just a little bit, hard to see it on camera, but it has all these little strings that hold the leaf together. And you probably thought I was going to say because of its bark. I would never do a cheesy joke like that. Dogwood also has these little fruits. There is an Asian variety that's edible, but the ones on our North American varieties, I wouldn't eat them. I bet a dog would though. Okay, enough of that nonsense. Let's go find some fish. Couple big sugar pine cones. Fortunately, I don't have any sugar pine jokes. Hopefully I don't have any fish jokes either. Let's walk upstream and assess this whole creek fish management situation. For this riparian area, which is the area around a body of water or stream, my main management strategy here is to mostly leave it alone, which is usually the recommended and often required strategy. The nice folks at the Department of Fish and Wildlife get a little testy sometimes if you start messing with the streams too much. This stream has really cold, clean water, and it stays cold and clean all summer. It's the kind of water that trout really like. But what it's lacking is more large holes. That's what it would need to be able to have more fish here, especially the bigger fish. Some of these small holes can hold fish. There's a little one. Just a couple inches long. Problem with these kind of holes, they don't usually hold a lot of big fish. And in really dry times, these can become more intermittent and some of the holes will dry up. I said intermittent funny. I say things funny sometimes. I don't know why. These larger ones are the ones that can hold fish all summer long. Oh yeah, what do you call a fish with no eyes? A fish. This used to be a big, really deep hole. That little waterfall, which turns into a big waterfall in the winter, always kept this hole dug out. But we had some really high water this winter, and the lower part of this hole washed away, which drained the hole. These decomposed granite soils can be very erosive. It's very easy for the water just to wash it away. There's still a little bit of a hole here, but now it's a shallow one. The soil washes down out of one spot, then it tends to accumulate in some of the other holes. A lot of times this is what we end up with, long stretches of small holes that dry up in the summer. That's part of what makes it hard to maintain good fishing holes here. They say we should leave nature alone, especially the riparian areas, but we took away some of nature's tools it used to maintain these with. Historically, this used to be a really good fishing creek. When we get to these rocky areas, that's where we can maintain some holes. The water has more of a difficult time moving these big rocks. Sometimes having the rocks on the upper side of the hole is how you maintain the holes, because those rocks above create a waterfall. Then in high water, that water runs over those and digs out the hole. Then if there are rocks and other hard to move things on the lower side of it that create a dam, those are the ingredients for a good fishing hole. In this case, there aren't many rocks here, so it's not a very big hole. Roots and logs can also help. I could have salvaged these alder logs when they came down and made some good lumber out of them, or I could leave them here in the riparian area to eventually help with habitat. These logs help catch a lot of the sediment that washed down from up above. Without these logs, the creek would probably be digging a channel right here, but with the logs here, it's now building up the stream bed. This one log is holding back all this sediment. This might be a really big old growth Pacific yew. If it is, it's big for a yew, but it's mostly these rocky areas that maintain good holes. Got rocks on the upper side, creates a waterfall to dig out the hole, then rocks on the lower side, creating a dam. These big alder trees and their root wads can also create holes. There's a good hole up here. The root wad of this alder is creating a dam on the lower side. On the upper side of this hole, these alders and maple and their root wads are creating a place where water comes down through here fast, digs out this hole, keeps it maintained. A healthy riparian area needs obstacles like these to create holes: rocks, logs, trees, and something else we'll get into in a little while. Another example of how these big alders and a big mass of roots creates a cascade that keeps this dug out. But without anything solid below it, the water is digging out this channel, which limits the size of that hole. Here's a chain fern. What's so special about chain ferns? It's the biggest fern in North America. These fronds are taller than I am. They're quite a bit different than a regular sword fern. They get their name because the arrangement of these spore-producing structures look a little bit like a chain. You can see it a little better on the bottom of these old wore-out, haggard leaves. Oh yeah, how many chain ferns does it take to screw in a light bulb? I don't know. Actually, I don't know any fern jokes. I don't know. But they do smell a little bit funny. This is a spot where I've really been noticing the last couple of years the water's been eroding this soft granite away. A couple of years ago, I tried piling a whole bunch of woody debris in here up against this downed cedar tree. But in the high water, most of it washed away. It dug out this channel about 2 feet deeper just this winter. With all the water that comes down here in winter storms, it would be difficult to build dams out of sticks and logs and rocks and mud that would be able to withstand that. To have dams like that in this creek that would hold back big pools of water, I would have to devote my whole life to maintaining those. If only I knew someone or something that would devote their life to building and maintaining dams here. I don't know if it's true, but I've heard rumors that beavers can actually be halfway decent at that. The people who live way, way downstream, they say The original homesteaders who owned their place said this creek used to be stair-step beaver dams all the way up, and they were full of trout, so many trout. But decades ago, they got rid of the beavers. They're no longer here. I used to know a place like that where there was a small creek like this. There was stair-step beaver dams. It was so full of fish, so many fish. The kind of deal where you just put your line in and you got a fish. Put it in again, you got another fish. But they took the beavers out of there and there's hardly any fish there anymore. I know beavers can come with their own set of problems, and yes, I am talking about the rodent, but I think I could deal with those problems if that meant this creek was full of fish. In this case, I don't think we would have to worry about the beavers flooding big areas of land because it would be contained down in this steep-sided channel. I think the biggest problem would be my culvert at the creek crossing, but I've seen some creative solutions to that. It also might be a problem for these big alder trees. It makes for a nice shady spot along this whole creek. But these big alders' days are numbered anyway. Every time we have a big snow, a bunch of them come down. Erosion from the creek is undermining them like it did with this one. And this one, this channel is dug down about 4 feet in the last few years. The creek bed used to be about a foot under these small logs. This has all been recently dug out. If we had beavers in here building dams, those dams would collect the sediment. The beavers would have to keep building the dams up as the sediment build up, but what else do they have to do? They're okay with that. We would be building the land up in the riparian area instead of digging a channel out through it. Now we're a good distance upstream. The stream is down in the bottom. I've always thought down here would be a great place to dig a big pond. It's a flat spot down in a bowl. But I know the Department of Fish and Wildlife would get very angry at me if I was to build a dam or dig a pond in this type F stream. But if beavers did it, that would be okay. There are a lot of things for them to eat down here, and it has water. If we go above all this, we can go to the summer source. That's it. That's where the water is seeping out of the ground. Above this, it's just dry creek bed that only runs in the winter when we get most of our precipitation. What a brushy mess. But if I had beavers here, they could turn all this brush into a big pond. But I'm not sure where you get beavers. I don't see them on Amazon. It's not like we have a beaver store locally. Well, we kind of do down on the corner, but that's different. That doesn't count. Never mind that. Trapping and relocating them could be a thing, but I don't have a place to do that from. And that could lead to a very long, annoying conversation with the Department of Fish and Wildlife about how you're not supposed to relocate wild animals. Having beavers here would create some problems down at the culvert, the crossing where we started looking for fish. There are wildlife in the riparian area, but it's just not as wildlife rich as you would expect to see in an area with a lot of ponds. There are no waterfowl here, no ducks, no geese, no cranes. There are a lot of things that could be here that just aren't here. And it's just like us humans to say, I am going to get rid of all that stuff. I'm going to have this be an unnatural riparian area that's digging itself out instead of building up the land, or at least slow down the erosion process, just because I don't want an inconvenience down at the crossing. That seems a little what? Seems a little out of proportion. But that might be easy for me to say because I've never had to live with beavers, the rodents, I mean. It wouldn't cause a problem with timber value because we are not allowed to harvest timber within 100 feet of a type F stream. The Department of Forestry is nice to me. They give me a 50-foot buffer instead of a 100-foot buffer, but I can't log these trees anyway. Oh, a deer skull, a couple jaw bones. A big kitty probably had venison dinner here. We have a lot of that kind of wildlife, but I think we could grow more fish and other wildlife if we just had beavers. A lot of people think we need to leave the forest to nature. But we took nature out of the forest a long time ago when we took away periodic wildfire. That used to manage the forest, but with that gone, now I have to manage my forest to keep it healthy. Nature can't manage the forest anymore like it used to because we took away one of its main tools. We're also supposed to leave these riparian areas untouched, leave them to nature, but we took away one of the main tools nature used to manage these places. What we have here in so many of our streams now is just not natural. One thing that beavers do, they can eat themselves out of their food source. They somewhat clear cut the place sometimes, then they move on to where there's more food. Then after years later, the food grows back and the beavers come back. They can be cyclical. But it's been a long cycle since the beavers have been back in here. Over 100 years maybe. These big timber forests that have grown up in here since then might not be what this place would naturally look like. What do you think? Do I really want beavers here, or is that a bad idea? I'll put a couple more wildlife videos up here for you to watch, and I'll leave you with water.